first and foremost, like I was saying, thank you to everyone that is joining on. Happy Friday, Junior. We know that Thursday at 5 p.m. is you're either probably driving, just getting out of class, or maybe just settling in, probably having your first meal of the day, like I probably just did myself. So thank you so much to everybody that is already here. Please do not forget to tell, yeah, exactly, or watching Worlds. Please do not forget to tell your friends that this is happening right now. Say, hey, go ahead, jump on. This is a great opportunity for you to learn more about the industry and to learn from industry professionals. So I'm going to go ahead and start off. My name is Justice Miranda. I am Director of Operations for Cxmmunity. We focus on bridging the gap, especially digitally and within workforce development pipelines for students to be able to get on the same level playing field when going into this workforce of gaming and esports. So the reason that we decided to do these fireside chats, which we've now had 2 coming up so far, and now we have a few more coming up in November, is because we know that students and people in general just need to know more information about the industry, but also that there is a lot of industry knowledge from these professionals that needs to be given out. So we have our Riot team here, specifically Victoria and JT, that work right hand in hand with every realm of Riot Games as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to them. But thank you again to everybody for joining, and super excited about today and the ones to come. So handing it over to Victoria, but thank you all.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, community, to Riot's virtual workshop on how to organize a tournament. We're really thrilled to be here today. I'm Victoria Sanchez, and I'm the Diversity Community Program Manager at Riot. Joining me today is JT, who is an incredible Riot staff member from our esports team. JT, if you could introduce yourself, maybe tell us your preferred pronouns, your title, and how long you've been working at Riot.
Thanks, Victoria and Justice, for the introduction. So my name is JT Bandenbury. As mentioned, my pronouns are he, his. I am the Operations and Championships Lead at Riot for North America Scholastic Esports. I have been at Riot for 10 years. I've been running a kind of esports and gaming events beyond that for 17 total. I've kind of worked on a variety of things, all the way up from, the League World Championship and the LCS to the Challenger Series, which is our minor league in North America and EU for a few years before Academy. Now I've been working on the Scholastic team doing College League of Legends, and as of this year, College Valorant, and I've been on the Scholastic team for the last 5 years. I also want to thank Cxmmunity for putting this all together. This is a super cool thing. And I also want to thank all of you for being here on a Thursday afternoon or evening, depending on where you are.
Yes. And before we get started and we hear from JT, there's a few housekeeping rules I wanted to mention. So if you could please rename yourselves with your preferred name, your pronouns, tell us either the company that you're coming from or what your career interest or major is. So for instance, mine would be Victoria, Riot Games, Diversity and Inclusion. And then secondly, we really want to encourage you to answer or to ask questions. If you could please, any questions that you have throughout JT's presentation, or my portion of the presentation, Justice will be collecting your questions, so you can just start inserting them into the chat as they come up, and then we'll have a more formal question and answer towards the end. But before I pass the mic over to JT, I wanted to tell you a little bit more about Riot. So I'm going to share my screen. Awesome. Can everyone see my screen? Thumbs up. Excellent. So Riot Games was founded in 2006 with really the mission to become the most player-focused company in the world. So our purpose is really to make it better to be a player. And as you know, we put the players at the center of every single decision that we make here at Riot. Our first game that we released was the League of Legends, but ever since then, we've really expanded our portfolio into many more games like Teamfight Tactics, the League of Legends Wild Rift, the Legends of Runeterra, and Valorant. We've even expanded our reach into entertainment with our Emmy Award-winning series, Arcane. So how many of you have either played Riot's games or watched Arcane? Maybe drop your favorite Riot game or a champion in the chat. I see a lot of hands up. Awesome. Riot's headquarters is in LA, but we have so many different offices globally. We have 4,000 plus rioters, 20 plus global offices, and this past year, we've been certified as a great place to work. If you'd like a virtual tour of our LAX office, since I won't have a ton of time to be able to show you the video, I will drop a video for you later on in the chat so you can have a virtual tour of what it's like to work at Riot. A question that we often get is, do I need to be good at video games to work at Riot? And the short answer is no, you don't need to be a gamer to work at Riot. There are certainly roles that require gaming knowledge, but there are so many roles at Riot that don't require it. For our non-gaming roles, it's really important that you have player empathy. Like I mentioned, all the decisions that we make here at Riot are based around our players, so that player empathy will help you no matter what role you're in at Riot. And finally, before I pass the mic over to JT, if you're interested in interning at Riot, we are currently accepting applications for our 2023 summer internship program. And we would love to get applicants from Cxmmunity if you're interested. And I will drop the details for that program into the chat. So that said, finally, I'd like to pass the mic to JT for a behind the scenes look at tournament ops and how to organize a tournament. JT, I'm going to stop sharing and pass it to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Victoria. So the first thing I want to make sure that everyone has a sense of before I leave today is that anyone can run a tournament. Especially today, there have been so many more resources made available to everybody for free that I wish I had 17 years ago when I was first trying to do this stuff. It's free to stream. It is free to use Discord. It's free to use social media. It's free to use Google Sheets and Google Docs. Like, there are so many resources that are available to you right now that will give you all of the tools that you need to run your own tournaments. Now, there's a difference between running a tournament and running the LCS or a professional esports league, absolutely. But in terms of just saying, I want to try running a tournament, all the tools and all the processes are available to you right now, and you can just do it yourself in your spare time without a ton of overhead lifting. So get that thought in your head that there is no huge barrier to just doing the thing, which is one of the most important things that I'm going to talk about later when we talk about starting a career and getting into the industry. One of the competitions that I run at Riot is called the College League of Legends season. I'm going to be talking about that throughout my discussion as kind of an example of what I'm talking about. But the first thing you need to ask when you want to run a tournament is not, despite the topic of the talk, how to run a tournament. It is why you are running a tournament. There is a great TED Talk by Simon Sinek that I refer to all the time, and the big quote from that is, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. You need to have a reason to do what you're doing, and you build your event around that. Now, this can be hard to put into words, especially when it's something that you intuitively understand. If you're here, you are probably the kind of person that gets it when it comes to esports. You don't need anyone to explain to you why you love video games or why you love competition or why esports is magic to you. So when someone asks you why, you're kind of like, well, it's esports. I mean, it's great, obviously. And that makes sense to you because you get it, but you need to know explicitly what that why is. The best thing you can do for yourself is put in the effort to have a fast answer to someone asking you, why are you running this tournament? Now, this can be a multi-step answer. So for Riot, we kind of have tiers of kind of the why chain that works all the way down from what Victoria said, aspiring to be the most player-focused game company in the world, all the way down to my why for running the College League of Legends season. For College League of Legends, At a high level, the esports team for League of Legends says we want League of Legends to be a global sport that lasts for generations. That is the League of Legends esports team mission for all of us worldwide. For North America, which is the team that I work on, we want League of Legends to be an inclusive generational sport in North America specifically. So you go from the big Y to a slightly smaller Y, but still a pretty big Y. And then moving down, we want to encourage colleges and universities to invest in esports and gaming programs at their institutions. The reason for that is we want our gamers in college and our people that play our games to have the best experience they possibly can. And that includes having a community around them that supports them, that understands them, that sees them, and can do things with them to make it more special to play League of Legends in college than it is to just play League of Legends sitting at home. So we want our competitive players in college to have an awesome competition experience, and esports is something that we at Riot do very well and hold very close to our heart, and that's why we run the College League of Legends season. And knowing that, that is what we build everything else off of when we make all of our decisions about what kind of competition format we're going to use and how long the event's going to be and all those other little details. It all has to ladder back up to that why, and that answers a lot of questions for you. If you are passionate and you are smart, you could probably come up with a million different ways you could run a tournament. You know, different formats or different styles, or having it on Discord or having a live event or anything like that. And if you don't have a why, all of those individual ideas will feel just as good as all the other ones, and you'll never be able to decide what you should really do. So that why gives you that reason to say, okay, here's why we're doing this, so we need to do these things, so these specific decisions make sense for what I'm trying to do right here. The next big why part is your target audience. This matters so much, and it's something that a lot of people don't think about. You need to know who you are making something for, and without that, you are just going to get stuck. This will answer questions like, how competitive should your competition be? That sounds like a weird question, but there's a difference between the World Championship of League of Legends and the College League of Legends season, and a tournament that your college club runs on the weekend, and just a general open to anybody local event. Those all have different levels of competition. How accessible should it be? Do you want there to be lots of people that enter? Do you want it to be really easy to get involved, or do you want people to be very committed? Do your entrants want a long-term commitment? Do they say, I want to sign up for this and do this every weekend for 3 months? Or is it, this is a cool thing that I want to do today? Knowing who your target audience is will answer a lot of those questions for you, and losing sight of what your audience needs, again, that player focus that we talk about so much at Riot, you're going to end up making decisions that don't make sense to the people that you're trying to serve with your event. So for an example, for the College League of Legends season, we know that our league players in college are some of the most passionate players in North America. They self-organize, they run events, they build clubs, they put a lot of stuff together just because they love the game so much and they want to share that with other people. So we know that the people that we are designing our college program for are very dedicated, very passionate, very knowledgeable, and they want something that they can be around and be involved with for a long time. They don't just want to show up for a weekend and do the College League of Legends tournament, and then that's all that they do with Riot for the year. They care a lot, and they want something that's bigger and broader that they can really sink their teeth into. We also know that before we started running anything in college, students were running their own intercollegiate League of Legends competitions. They didn't have any resources, they didn't have any support. They were usually just a bunch of students that worked together to throw up a bracket on a free tournament site somewhere and put it together. But we know that they really, really care about saying that our school beat your school at League of Legends and we're the best. And that's kind of a driving factor for what brings all that stuff in. And I see some nods and some fists going up in the audience that like that's the good stuff. That's the juice for our competitive college audience. And so that brings us to knowing that they want a premier esports experience, and they want this to be tied into how they are experiencing college. College players aren't just another community. They are having the shared experience of going to a college or a university. They are setting out on their own for their first time in a lot of cases. They're finding their tribe. They're defining who they are. And they want League of Legends to fit into that. So it's not just for us about running another tournament, just saying, hey, we're just going to take this format and stick it here. We want to find ways to tie into traditional college athletics and kind of the college and university experience in the US and Canada. So we have our why and we have our target audience. So next we need to talk about designing the competition itself. An analogy I really like is that tournament design is like sitting in front of a box full of Legos. You're not really inventing new Lego bricks. All of the pieces are pretty much there. I can't think of the last time I saw or heard of a format that I had not heard of or seen pieces of somewhere else. And that's okay. You don't need to feel the pressure of saying, I need to come up with the most brilliant, cleverest thing that no one's ever heard of before, because that's not the point of the tournament. The point is getting people together or having a good competition or doing things like that. So you sit in front of your box full of tournament Legos and you take the existing pieces and you put them together in a new way that makes sense for what you want to build. And you can take those pieces from anything. It can be professional sports. If you're a big football fan, you can like the NFL and say, hey, I want to play the regular season and divisions into a playoff round and into this. You could follow esports and say, I want to be like the LCS or the LEC. Or you could look into other games, poker, chess, Magic the Gathering. Like, there are bazillions of different competitions for different reasons. You do not need to reinvent the wheel. My two favorite tournament design maxims are: one, good artists borrow and great artists steal. Not an original thought by me, case in point. But you don't have to come up with something clever. If someone came up with a format already that does exactly what you need a format to do, you just take it. I mean, there's no copyright on an elimination bracket. Otherwise, it would be very hard to do my job. And the other thing is that it doesn't matter how good your format is if all of your entrants hate it. And it doesn't matter why they hate it. And trust me, if you do this for a long enough time, you're going to hear every reason ever, most of which make no sense, why someone hates a format for whatever reason. Don't take that personally. People are strange, including all of us. But it's important to remember that you shouldn't focus super hard on saying, I'm going to make the biggest, bestest Lego tournament tower that's ever been invented. Because if it's not right for your target audience, and if it's not right for your why, it's not going to work. That was a problem that I had to spend years of my career getting over, being too clever for my own good and wanting to say, I want to come up with this flawless format that solves every one of our problems. And I ended up creating a lot of stuff that did do those jobs, but might be too complicated for the people that I'm organizing a tournament for. It might be hard to understand for people that wanted to follow or keep up. Or it might just be a pain. Or someone just has some kind of bias about whatever. Specific communities tend to share opinions about things that are just their own opinions for whatever reason. And if you say, hey, I know you all hate this kind of format, but I'm going to run a tournament in this format, they're going to hate the format. And it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, it just is. And if you want to be player focused, you have to figure out what those things are and build something that actually serves those people and makes them feel like their needs are being met as much as it does actually meet those needs. So in order to start, you're sitting in front of your Lego box and you're like, all right, well, now what do I need to do? There are a lot of things that you can think about, and it's very easy to get bogged down into details about, like, I'm going to make this schedule that's super fancy or technical or awesome or whatever. There are three things that are kind of like the most mandatory pieces that you need to start with that kind of spreads into everything else. This is not the exclusive list of what you need to do, but this pretty much always has to get answered anytime you design any competition. The first is format. Just how is this literally going to work? How are you deciding who plays against who? How do you keep score? How does this advance into the next phase of competition? And these are all the things that you know from looking at competition. So this is, are you going to have an elimination bracket? Is this March Madness or the NFL playoffs or World's knockout stages? Is this going to be a league where there's lots of teams that all play against each other in like a round robin where everybody plays everybody once? Or like a group stage, like the first phase of Worlds, where you have smaller groups of entrants that all play against each other and then they go into something else. You have to figure out how those pieces come together, and all of those different structures have different advantages and disadvantages in terms of how many matches people play and how competitive those matches are, how much somebody gets to play or may get to play. And you pretty much just have to sample all those different pieces and say, okay, what works about this, what doesn't work about this, and how does this fit together into the Lego tournament tower that I'm trying to put together. The second thing is kind of your length of a tournament. This is a factor of mostly both level of commitment and kind of your logistics and resources. So I kind of mentioned earlier, if you're throwing a LAN party, people don't want the tournament to last more than a few hours because that's how long they're going to be at the LAN party, and then the party will be over. So if the tournament doesn't finish before the LAN party is over, you're kind of in trouble. And the other way around, kind of as I mentioned with the College League of Legends season, if people want this premier professional-like experience, getting in and out in a day or a weekend isn't going to feel good. They're going to want something that is longer and more drawn out. And you look at this in terms of kind of orders of magnitude. So is your tournament going to last a day? Is it going to last a weekend? Is it going to last a month? Or is it going to be longer than that? And all of those different kind of categories have different, again, different advantages and different disadvantages, and fits into your Lego tournament tower in a different way. And you always go back to your why, and you go back to your target audience, try to figure out which of those things works. And the third thing is prizes. Now, more often than not, the first question you need to ask is, do you actually need prizes at all? A lot of people think right off the bat, they're like, I'm running a tournament, so I need prizes. And the answer, more often than not, is actually no, because, again, you feel the magic about esports. You know the good stuff is the competition and bringing people together. Sometimes that is the prize. Sometimes people just want to go to a thing and be in a room full of other people that get it the way that they get it. You know, my kind of formative experience, so actually I was a competitive Dance Dance Revolution player for many years. Still am. I'm kind of washed now, neither here nor there. But the first time I went to a DDR tournament, as you can imagine, I played at home on my flimsy soft pad all by myself, and it was this weird Japanese game that none of my friends at school had ever heard of, for the most part. The first time I went to a tournament, well, actually, the first time I found out a tournament existed, I freaked out. The first time I went, I walked into this big room, and there were 100 people in it, and for the first time ever, I was like, oh my God, I'm home. I got that sense of belonging because for the first time ever, I saw all these people that got it, that loved the game the way I did, that cared about the game the way I did, that competed. And for a lot of people, that is the prize, and you're good. But that is not always the case. So the next question you have to ask is, how would prizes serve your why? If your why is, I am building a premier competitive experience, prizes make sense because it adds to that prestige and that reward. It gives people an intrinsic, tangible thing that says, you were competitive and you did a good job and you earned this from your work. That can be a really powerful payoff. The other trade-off, though, is that as soon as prizes get involved, the onus becomes on you to make sure that people aren't doing funny things. Suddenly cheating becomes an issue. Suddenly eligibility becomes an issue. And that leads to this big level of complexity that you don't need to include if it's not the right fit, but it is something that you're going to have to think about. You see this often with things like women's tournaments or tournaments explicitly for disadvantaged groups or exclusive groups or bringing different kinds of groups together, where if it's just a community event, it's nice and easy and you can be pretty laid back about it. But as soon as you add prizes, you know, if you put a $10,000 prize pool in your Women's League of Legends tournament, all of a sudden you're going to have to deal with people who are pretending to be what they're not because they want the prize and they don't care about the other stuff. But if there is no prize there, there is no incentive for people like that to try to cheat your system and do something that you don't want them to do and make the experience worse for everybody else. That's something that you're looking to consider. And then the third thing is, how do prizes serve your entrance why? Again, if people are just happy to be in a room full of people that get it in their area, they don't need a physical reward or a prize to get that validated. It might be good. On the other hand, if they are a competitive team that trains and practices and works really hard, they're already doing the competitive thing all the time. The prize is the cherry on top and is what they're really going for to make them pick your tournament over somebody else's. And the fourth thing, and this is the hard part that everyone runs into, is where are those prizes coming from? Money does not grow on trees. All of those tools I mentioned, super free. Prizes, not super free. So you need to know if you can, say, for example, charge an entry fee and put that into a pot for a cash prize, or if you can get sponsorships, whether that is, the local pizza shop down the road from your LAN center, or whether that's a corporate company that wants to sponsor these kinds of events, or if it's a developer themselves that has like a tournament rewards program that says if you run an event, we'll throw some prizes your way. Another option is donations. You know somebody that knows somebody and they're like, hey, I think esports is great. Here's $100 to put into your prize pool. Or here's some stuff from this company. We're going to donate 10 keyboards and they can go to your winners or something like that. And the fourth, and this applies more to me than it does to any of you, but is a corporate budget. If your company says we're running a tournament, we have this budget to put towards the event, some of that budget can go into a prize pool. But it is very liberating for me as a younger organizer when I was told, like, hey, if people are just happy to come out, you don't need to give them money. You can just run the event, and that's what you did for them. It is often a blocker for a lot of organizers that I hear saying, well, where do I get the money from? And the answer is you may not need it. So for College League of Legends, going back to the example, we went with a long-term league structure with weekly matches. This is meant to mirror kind of a professional competition, intercollegiate athletics. So you have a schedule that plays out over a few months and a regular cadence of competitions. We have a complicated professional-like format. We have groups that go into playoffs. The groups are split into divisions. The divisions are split into regions. It's a big, complicated structure, but it's because it is serving individual groups in a very specific way. And they tend to be more savvy, they tend to be more organized, and they tend to be more in tune with the League of Legends esports ecosystem. So it's okay to make something more complicated and say, hey, here's our 40-page rulebook, please read that. Whereas if you're organizing a local community event and you say, here's our 40-page rulebook, they're going to go, come on, man, why? And last thing for prizes, we put scholarship prizes at the end of the road for all of the College League of Legends teams that make it to the college championship and get to the top 16. One of those reasons is just to put that extrinsic value. As I said, these students are competing pretty regularly. They are used to this kind of thing. And so that reward is the big intrinsic validation of I worked my butt off for an entire school year and got to the pinnacle of this competition, and this is what I got. And there's specifically scholarships because this is a college program. We want this to feed back into everybody's education. We want this to be a great equalizer. So if you are, this is one of the ways that if you're a great League of Legends player, we want to make it easier for you to get an education and have a better overall life, not just win a tournament and get a pat on the back and a keyboard and say, good job, and then the keyboard dies and you have nothing to show for it for the rest of your life. The last thing to cover is resources and constraints. You need to know what you have at your disposal to run stuff, and you need to know what you cannot do and where your limits are. So this is kind of all the hard stuff. This is like a venue. This is equipment, hardware and software. Do you have computers? Do you have the programs on the computers to play the game? This is also things like time and money. You can rent a venue, but the venue says you can't show up before 9 a.m. and you got to get out by 11 p.m. Like, you have to fit within those constraints, and that's the way it is. The other thing is people. If you're doing this by yourself, you are limited in what you are able to do, and how complicated something needs to be or how hands-on you can be. But if you have more people that can help you, that gives you the flexibility to have multiple different competition stations, or have a bigger event, or have someone focus on the Discord server while you focus on the bracket and things like that. There is no kind of defined pathway here, but it's just understanding what you have available to you, because if there's only one of you, you're not going to run an 100-team tournament. That's just going to drive you crazy and probably make you not study for your classes, which is bad. Don't do that. Or make, it'll just not be good. So knowing what your bubble is, of saying, if I get everything I possibly get, this is as big as it can possibly be, that is your constraint, and you organize within those constraints. For College League of Legends, the things that we talk about is we use online play, because that way we can scale forever. Turns out there are a lot of colleges and universities in the US and Canada. Last year we had 451 of them enter the College League of Legends season. So whatever we do, we need to be very flexible on that front, which is why we have all the schools play online, so they can play from where they're comfortable. We don't have to set up a venue for everything. No one has to travel and spend money and time on that kind of thing. We also have a college season Discord server where we can bring everybody together to share news, give updates, let the teams get in touch with each other. Again, easy to set up. It's where all of our players already are, nice and easy to use. We obviously have a Riot budget from the esports team where it's like, here's this chunk of money, this is what you get to use for the college season. So I have to figure out how to split up that money in the best way possible. And on the people side, we actually outsource a lot of our tournament operations to a third party. Right now it's Battlefy, and they handle the day-to-day operations. They run the tournament website and things like that. And that way we can scale out to all 451 schools that entered last year. And it is not just me talking to everyone that has a question all the time, because I would go insane and also not do anything else with my job. All right, so now we get to move on to the fun part. So we're going to do a little breakout session right now. We're going to build off of what I talked about. We're going to get set up into groups, and I'm going to have you do a couple different things. So first is pick your target audience, is what we talked about at the very beginning. This can be anything from a social group like your college club, a physical space like a local LAN center, a digital community, so that's like a Discord server or a subreddit, or like an ecosystem if you want to look at the amateur League of Legends community as a whole or anything else. And then design a competition. So you need to focus on the three things I talked about: a format, kind of how it's going to work. You don't need to go super detailed here. You can just talk high level, or if you want to get super detailed, be my guest. I always love to talk about that stuff. Talk about your tournament length. Is this going to be a one-day thing, a weekend thing, a month thing, or longer, and why? And if you need prizes, so first make that decision, and then if you do need prizes, talk about how that would work and what you would need to do to get that. And if you don't need prizes, talk about why not. And then talk about one challenge in your proposed design. It's hard to go from your idea to making things real, and there's no such thing as an idea person. Everyone is a do person in the professional space. So once you come up with your idea, you need to think about how you're going to do it. So identify one challenge about, we're going to need to figure out how to coordinate between, if you want to run an 100-team tournament, we're going to figure out how we can talk to all of those players and all those entrants very quickly, or how we're going to broadcast these kinds of things. It can be anything, whatever comes to mind, but talk about what that challenge is and how you may go about solving that. And then we're going to come back together, we're going to share it, and I'm going to talk about, what I think about your proposal and, kind of the upsides and downsides, and see how that all goes. Take it away, Victoria and/or Justice.
Awesome. Okay, you should receive an invitation.
I hope you all are ready, JT and Victoria, because when I went into the breakout rooms, I'm like, you did this in 10 minutes? Oh, okay, got it. Let me go ahead and let you guys keep going, because you're doing the daggone thing. So I'm super excited.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Excellent.
Let me know when we have everybody back.
It looks like we have everyone back now, JT, so take it away.
Fantastic. All right. So now we're going to take volunteers that want to share what they did on their group, talk about kind of the decisions they came to on the format, the length of prizes, your target audience, the challenges you need to overcome, and any other detail you want to add that you threw in there. And I will give you some feedback, poke some holes, and we can have a little discussion about it. Who would like to start? I am not above. Oh man, 2 volunteers already.
Do we rock, paper, scissors?
You started talking first, so you get to go first. Mark can go.
Yeah,
second.
go right ahead. That's fine.
Okay, I'm so sorry about that. All right. Hi, y'all. Really quick, my name is Hugh Lee. I'm from the Nevada Esports Education League. We are a nonprofit that supports all 5 universities in Nevada, and especially in Las Vegas. I'm at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And we are also heading up to University of Nevada, Reno next month to work on some tournament organizing. But the game we chose was Teamfight Tactics. Basically, it's a really cool game, easy for people to join in. Plus, it also gives the accessibility that if you don't have a computer, you can actually use your phone. Easy as that. So we just needed to create a space, like a room or something, just to get people in. And then the way we'll handle the tournament is literally by point system. One of our main concerns is that in Teamfight Tactics, if you have a group of just 4 people by themselves, you're going to have to play with online players. You can't avoid that. So one of the best ways to combat that is giving them a point system. No matter what place they end up with the online players against each other, all they have to do is get either first, second, or fourth. So for whatever points that they get at the end, we can just give them rewards, make them move on in the certain qualifiers, and then give them a prize or two. So yeah.
Cool. Thank you for that, Hugh. Did you pick a specific target audience that you wanted to go with, or is it just, where are you focusing on that?
I think the main focus would be students. I mean, that's where the heart of all esports is. And on top of that, thinking about some communities and some students who can't have a computer or don't have access to internet or affordable internet, it's just a lot easier just on the phones for students.
All right. So students is still pretty broad. So do you want that to be students at UNLV, students on kind of the West Coast? Like, kind of, how would you kind of cordon that off to be a little bit more specific?
I think at the moment it would be students at UNLV, and then managing it down to do, like, if we wanted to combine both universities together, we'll obviously have to have separate tournaments throughout the whole entire league. And that way, when a certain amount of people qualify or a certain amount of people get a couple wins under their belt, they're able to just come meet up together and do an online one via like Discord or something like that.
All right, cool. Did you decide on a length for the tournament?
Very. I don't exactly got an entire length. We were like really into like creating this entire tournament together, so we were very excited. But maybe a year, I think, if I remember most.
Okay. All right, cool. So the idea is that it's focused it's a TFT tournament for UNLV students. You earn points by placing in TFT games. You earn rewards for getting points, and then after a certain point, the top probably 8-point earners come together for a kind of live TFT event. Does that sound about right? Cool. Awesome. So some thoughts about that. I like that you focused on accessibility when you're going with kind of a broad group, and especially a game like TFT where it's pretty easy to just pick up and play. It's not like League of Legends where in order to start playing, you have to understand a lot just to even get into the game. So I think that's pretty smart. I also like that you kind of acknowledge the challenge of just matchmaking in TFT, the 8-person lobbies, and kind of accommodating for that. I think something that you would need to think about next is how quantity works. Like, are you incentivizing students to just spend all day, every day playing TFT so they just rack up as many points as possible because they want those rewards? Is there a cap? Is there a time limit? Like, find a way to constrain what the activity is, because something that we focus, especially like at Riot, is that, value number one at the RSAA is students first. We want this to be additive to their education, not overcoming their education. Now, realistically, we know some people are going to play League or TFT, more than they should, but that's their decision, not because the tournament makes them or they are incentivized to say, hey, you get more prizes if you spend 8 hours a day playing TFT and ditch all your classes. That's a loss for us. So that's something that you want to keep in mind as well, because I know I played more video games than I should have when I was in college. So I am very aware of how easy that is to happen. But overall, I like the format. I think it's a really good idea. Cool. Mark, you're up next.
Hi, how are you? See if I can turn my camera on. Okay, can you see me okay?
Yes.
Okay, just I'm glad I got in the group. I was just a little behind because I was handling the internet situation. But I'm Mark. I'm a esports coach at River Rouge High School in Detroit, Michigan. And the group I was in, we were talking about RTS, which is like for League of Legends, and that was the particular approach. So this is my angle. Normally, my background's usually like in first-person shooters or in fighting and sports and things like that. But when it comes to RTS, I play like Command and Conquer, and I'm like a little bit Civilization. I'm a little bit more on the laggard side of that. So what I would do for that is that I already have that particular sport that's set up for the esports individuals. I don't have a lot of people that are into RTS because they don't really know too much about it. So my particular approach is to be able to use a lot of cross branding and references, as in, hey, if you were into, like Civilization or Command and Conquer or any kind of strategy based game, or even reach out to people who play tabletop. Bring the individuals who have those particular strategies into the game for League of Legends. And certain rewards I would have is just by not just, you get certain perks and things like that in the game, but what I would do is maybe as in rewards, as in using teamwork with your team, seeing what the call outs are, having communication values, and reward them in that particular way.
Awesome. So the idea would be, if I can summarize really quick, to build a place for people that don't currently play kind of MOBAs or RTS games, to have a way to bridge into playing League of Legends, get used to kind of the team play aspect, and kind of reward them by just bringing them together, showing them a cool game, and meet up with other people in the same position. Does that sound about right?
Exactly.
Cool. Awesome. Have you thought about a length of time for this event?
Like for a actual tournament, or as in playing the game in general?
For whatever you are defining as your event. So let's say, just for simplicity, the part of bringing everybody together to actually play.
Okay, I would say for the length of the event, I would say about maybe 2 to 3 months for that, because by having everybody into that should already solidify whether if they have an interest in it or not, and then you could be able to home in it from there.
Okay, cool. So some really early thoughts, especially when it comes to bringing in new people. They are going to be less inclined to commit to things that they don't quite get and they don't know what they like yet. Not to say that you couldn't have a kind of ongoing event. At Riot pre-COVID, we would have the like a monthly board game night, and it was like hundreds of people would show up and play all kinds of games, and the attitude was very much like, hey, if you think tabletop games or board games are cool, like, come by, because there'll be something that you'll be able to hop in and play, and people will teach you, and it gives you that kind of welcoming atmosphere. I'm not a big tabletop guy, but I've been to a couple of them because I can just show up, be a total noob, and be like, what does this do? And people will walk me through it, not make fun of me for being a noob. And like, I can learn some stuff and spend some time with people. So I think you're definitely onto something with the bringing people together to teach them the ropes. I think you also were pretty smart about saying, like, the reward is bringing people together, getting people involved, and building a community. I think it would be interesting if you could find some kind of experienced or veteran players from somewhere, and maybe if they're not at your school, maybe bring them in from a neighboring school or elsewhere in the community to kind of serve as those kind of seed points. So you could have something like, one experienced player and 4 new players, because then there's somebody that can show everybody the ropes. If you bring 5 brand new players into a game of League of Legends and throw them onto Summoner's Rift, it'll probably look like an ant colony after someone gets disorganized and everyone's just kind of running around doing stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think the way you could build off of that is having those veterans in the area to help kind of guide people through the process and show them the good stuff. Because it kind of goes back to the, people buy why you do it, they don't buy what you do. So if you say, come play League of Legends, people are going to be like, well, there are lots of video games, like, what's special about this one? Versus saying, like, hey, we want to bring people together because there's this game that's super popular and we're going to build this organization, and you can find people that are gamers like you that will like games that you can play together instead of just sitting in your dorm room by yourself playing whatever game you're already playing online. So I think if you figure out what not only your why is, but the why for your target audience, they want friends or a new game or an experience that gives them a social experience, you can hone in really tight on that. And then figure out ways to kind of expand that further from there. But I think this is a really cool idea.
Thank you.
Victoria Justice, how are we doing on time? One more, or do we need to skip to the next part?
I think we need to wrap up and do Q&A, unfortunately, for the next portion. But if you save your ideas, you could definitely connect with JT after the end of the workshop. Awesome.
Yeah, I will be hanging around for a little bit afterwards anyway, so we can chat for a bit. I got 30.
Awesome. Justice, take it away.
Yes, thank you so much. First and foremost, I like this format of how we did the breakout rooms. And like I said, in 5 to 10 minutes, having these ideas is amazing. So I know I hopped into a lot of your breakout rooms while you all were ideating and brainstorming. I just want to say super kudos to every single person, because hearing what you all came up with, I hope you stay on to tell JT, because they're all great ideas. So we will go ahead and move over to our Q&A portion. So I have some good questions here for you, JT. First and foremost, when you have a time constraint deadline for your tournament, what is the first or most important decision you have to make for the tournament?
Yeah, definitely. So this goes all the way back to the beginning with the start with why. If you have a good why, you know what is the most important thing that you are trying to do, and you stack it down from there. So for example, if I am designing a tournament that's meant to be at a LAN party, for example, that's kind of my favorite time limited example. It's a LAN party at my college. People are going to come together to play, and the idea is that we are getting everybody to come out of their dorm rooms. We're bringing the gaming community together on campus, and we're all going to have a good time together. So for that, the why is about bringing people together and playing games. It is less about the competitive structure or prizing or having a defined ranking or like kind of that hyper competitive stuff. So for that, I look at my why and say, all right, people need to play games. It doesn't matter if we have a finals match and a grand champion at the end. It's really about just coming together and playing. So I would build a structure that would be, kind of, should have a term for this, but there isn't one, but isn't very flexible in terms of time, in that you know how long it's going to take. So this is like a best of one versus a best of three. If it's a best of one, it is one game of League of Legends, and that takes between 20 and 40 minutes, and you're good. If it's a best of three, it is between 2 and 3 games of League of Legends, so it's between 40 minutes and 3 hours. And suddenly, if we have that time constraint, that kind of range becomes a really big issue. So knowing that we have that tight time constraint, knowing that we want this to be about bringing people together and playing, would say, cool, let's just do like best of ones in a group, because that way we guarantee everyone's going to get this many games, and it's going to take more or less the right amount of time, so there's no risk of running over and having to call things off. People can get their games in and finish the event and say, I played my 3 best of ones, and I finished in 3rd place because I went 2-1 or something like that. That brings it all together, and it stays within my hard time constraint. So the short answer is basically like, you always look back to your why and you come up with your priority of what is the most important piece of this tournament. I can't sacrifice that. All right, what's the next important thing? It's like, all right, well, I'll sacrifice number 2 if it's for number 1, but not for anything else. And you work your way down, and then whatever's at that bottom of that list, that's the thing you look to trade off with first. It's never that clean. It always comes out to like, you can trade off thing number 5, but that saves us 30 minutes, or you trade off thing number 4 and that saves us 2 hours. And sometimes you have to make that choice where it's like, even though it's number 4, not number 5, you need 2 hours, so that's what you go with. But it all goes back to knowing your why and figuring out how that ties into your event itself.
I love that. Great answer. Next, what do you think is the most impactful marketing for a tournament to get your targeted amount of entrants? Online and in person changes the answer, but I'm curious for both.
Yeah, this goes back to whoever your target audience is. So if you know that you want to run an event for, I go back to college a lot, that's what I do, but if you're running an event at college, flying around campus is super easy, it's super reliable, it costs you whatever it costs to print things. And it goes from there. If you are looking for a specific community, you can go into that community and see if they have an events page. The College League of Legends Discord has an other events channel, and you can just post to say, hey, we're running a League of Legends tournament for college teams. It's happening here. Come check it out. And beyond that, it's like anything bigger than that, it just turns into the same marketing as everything else, where you can advertise in places, you can pay for media, you can get sponsorships. There's never really a right answer. And a lot of times, the vast majority of the time, you are not seeking a number for target participants, because you don't really have control over the number of teams that show up or the number of players that show up. You get what you get, and you have to deal with that. even for me, it's very rare that I'm like, cool, I want 400 schools to enter this year. Like, the reality is, if there are only 200 schools that have League of Legends teams, I'm not getting 300 League of Legends teams, and it doesn't matter how I do my marketing. So focusing on, again, going back to the why and having a really focused target audience will tell you, cool, I am looking for, 21 to 35-year-olds in the Los Angeles area because I'm starting an LA, esports league for fun. And then it's like, cool, where do those people exist? It's like, cool, I can put up advertisements in the area. I can put up a billboard. I could do, lots of little things, but you know that your audience is in Los Angeles, is this old, has these likes, has these kinds of behaviors. So focusing on your target audience is kind of the number one question you need to answer there.
Awesome. And I know that we are over time just by a little, but I am going to ask just two last questions and we can wrap it up. So first, are coaches allowed to be a part of teams in college, and are they allowed to get winnings as well?
Yeah, so it varies from game to game. So for College League of Legends, that we kind of have no restrictions on what your team staff is. So if you want to have a manager and 7 analysts and 2 coaches, like, that's fine. You do you. We don't want to tell people what the right way to run their team is because they're probably better at it than I am. The other side of the coin is that for scholarships for League of Legends in particular, we do have 2 staff slots for scholarship prizes, and the team gets to decide where that goes and why. So again, we don't prescribe that. So that can be the team manager, that can be a coach, that can be an analyst, however that plugs in. And that varies from league to league. Like, for example, for College Valorant, it's just a fixed amount. So like, if you win a regional, like the Fall West tournament, your team gets $3,000 in scholarships, and you tell us how that gets split up and who it goes to. So it always varies from event to event, but at least on the Riot side, we are genuinely supportive of that. We know that an esports team is not the 5 players that hit the field. It's everybody around that as well. And we want to make sure that we both acknowledge that and support that.
Awesome. So last question, are there other opportunities if you don't qualify for the internships, but also don't have strong enough portfolio for standard roles? And so I'll pass that one over to Victoria, and then we can just go ahead and wrap it on up.
Yeah, this is a tough one. We really encourage you to come back to our career page periodically and just continue to check to see if there's associate roles that open up, gain experience, volunteering, or participating in workshops that we host with organizations like Cxmmunity, staying in touch with folks that you meet at Riot. So like, after this workshop, hit up JT and I on our LinkedIn and stay connected and stay in touch. Informational interviews are also really encouraged and can help you get a better sense of the different roles at Riot and what craft skills will align with the positions that you're potentially interested in applying for. And so those informational interviews, say like with me or JT, or I know Sam is on this call, who works on our university programs team, will really get you a better sense of what that role entails, right? And so staying in touch with us on LinkedIn and continuing to reach out for those informational interviews is going to definitely give you a leg up in that process, and participating in workshops like these with other Rioters who will help prepare you for Riot's interview process, right? I think those are some of the ways that you can continue to stay engaged while looking for those opportunities that come up on Riot's career page.
Yeah, and I think what's major for everything that we're doing with Riot specifically and these fireside chats is to let you know that you don't have to be that experienced or have such a grand portfolio to be able to do these different roles. That is what these internships are for. It's to train you and for you to get into the industry, but also for things like this. I'm sure there are numerous, like even just YouTube videos of where you can go learn a little bit more experience, do a free class with Microsoft or Google, or, so I don't want anyone to think that you're limited to only the things that you've done so far. There is so much more that you can get into that's free without college or education. You actually can go into it in any realm that you would like to. We always like to say, especially like with community, people don't realize that you need lawyers in the gaming and esports industry, or that you need operations people like myself in the gaming and esports industry. So really, whatever pathway or industry that you're looking to go into for your career, I'm sure you have some of that experience to be able to bring towards an internship. So just keep that in mind, and never, lower yourself thinking that you don't have what it takes, because you do. It just depends on what you're actually looking to do in the near future. So want to say thank you first and foremost to the Riot team for doing this with us. I'm super excited for what we have coming up. I just want to name a few events that we do have coming up in partnership with Riot. First, we have the Riot Kickback Cup. So that is in partnership with World Games, which is super exciting. So that event is going to be on October 27th in Atlanta. It will be broadcasted, so please tune in if you are not in Atlanta or cannot come for that week or for that time. But from 9 a.m. up until 11 p.m., we will be rioting it out. So starting off the day with panels and panel discussions, then going on to doing an actual Valorant and League of Legends tournament, then moving on to a concert, which is just engaging and fun. And this is what we're all about. And this is what this amazing partnership is lending us to do. So I dropped the link in the chat if anybody does want to join onto the broadcast or even be able to attend in person. We would love if you could attend in person. We have a space that houses over 2,000 people. So the more the merrier, even if it's a quick drive for you, come on down. We would love to have you. But if not, please stream it. And then, of course, like I said, we are doing these Fireside Chats bi-monthly. So that same Eventbrite that you signed up for this one at, you can go sign up for the next it's 4 of them left. So those 4, we're actually going to be doing resume prep and interview prep. So in these conversations, when you ask, like, what can I do? That's a great way to go into that conversation, is saying, hey, I might not have the most experience. My resume might not reflect exactly the career path I want to go into. How can I make this better? How can I level the playing field when I submit my application versus my counterparts? So just want to make sure that everybody does sign up for those next ones that we have coming up in November, which is going to be every week in November on Tuesday. So just keep that in mind, 5 to 6 p.m. every week in November on Tuesday. Keep this time frame and time slot allotted for us to go through that. So those are just a few events that we have. And I know Riot has many, many more, but just in partnership with community specifically, I wanted to make sure that you all knew about them. So as JT said, like even myself, I'll be on for a little bit longer. I'm sure Victoria will as well. So if you all have any extra questions, please feel free to stay on. I am actually going to go ahead and drop my email into the chat for anybody that has any further questions or wants any information on anything that I just talked about. But thank you to everybody for coming on today, and super excited to see where this goes, and excited to see where you all are about to take your careers. So even if this conversation led you to go into more tournament organizing, or these fireside chats have lended you to say, you know what, actually, let me go ahead and look into this career path. Please let me know that too, or let us know that, because that's what we want to know, is how impactful was this, and how can we make it better and more geared towards what you want to learn. So we love feedback, and thank you all for joining, and excited to see you in the very near future.
I have a quick question for the Riot employees.
Yeah, what's up?
I was looking at some of the application roles for like applying in the fall for next summer, and I was wondering, if we already signed up for all the future the fireside chats through the end of this fall, should we wait until after the last fireside chat to apply, or apply as early as possible?
Alex, is this for the next year? You said 2023?
Yeah, for next year, because for the ones that are already open right now.
I would encourage you to apply as soon as possible, especially because they're on a rolling basis. So we've had a lot of applications. So
Okay.
Yes, apply as soon as you can.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, I have a question.
Yes.
Go
So,
ahead, Andrew.
I know that Riot's one of the big companies. What's your tips on how to stand out to get an offer from Riot? I'm sure you guys get thousands of resumes a day.
I think from my side, it's really just about the specific role. Realistically, every role is different, especially at a company like Riot, where there isn't so much a blueprint. We are hiring people to do specific things. In some of the bigger departments, that's a little bit different. But like, we don't hire an esports operations person as a generalist. We are hiring, for example, an esports operations specialist for the LCS or for VCT or for College League of Legends. So we're looking for not just experience with kind of those kinds of operations, but also specific experiences that tailors you to the project that you would be working on. So in my case, like, let's say I'm hiring for a new college operations coordinator in esports, I would be looking for someone who not only has the portfolio, that has run events, that has experience, but also still has connections to the college space. Maybe they were a club officer while they were a student, or maybe they've run college-specific events before, or maybe they worked as an RA or worked for Res Life after they graduated. Having kind of those extra piece of experience that ties specifically towards what you're going to be doing, not just the mechanics of the role of like, oh, I have 3 years of experience doing this and 2 years of experience doing that. There's a difference, there's a minor but important difference between running an esports tournament and running an esports tournament for professional players or for semi-pro players or for college players or for people in the community. So having kind of that nuance there will help a lot. One of the things I tend to say to people is that like careers are super meandery. They're never a straight line of I have acquired 3 years of experience of this and 2 years of experience of that, and now I have the right tools to go to the thing. As long as you are building up skills that will move you closer to the desired job that you are trying to get to, whatever that job is helping you on that path. So if you want to become an organizer specifically in the college space, you want to run events, you want to understand college students, you want to work in a college atmosphere, like you can do all of those things separately and build those skills to get to that point. So somebody who has, 3 years of experience running esports events generically may not be as interesting to me as someone who's run esports events for a year and was an RA for a year and was in the Res Life office for a year if I'm hiring for a college role specifically. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So really tailor your resume to the exact position that you're hiring for.
Yeah, we want to find the right fit, not just whoever's, it's not like your stats are high. Like there is no, I would love it if I could just, click on someone's profile and see their stats for like, you're an 87 out of 100 for tournament organization and a 90 out of 100 for event planning or whatever. Like that doesn't exist. So what does exist is the kind of specific details of what kinds of things you do and how you are the right fit for this specific job.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And Andrew, the only other thing that I would mention is to also take some time to get to know Riot's values pretty deeply, and kind of like how they relate to your own values or the work that you've done in the past. Our interview process is really focused on those values as well. And if you come to our future Fireside Chat series, Sam and I will be running a workshop specifically on like demystifying the Riot's interview process as well to get you prepped for that. But just a heads up that it is really important, and I will drop that in the chat too, so you can just kind of like already begin to familiarize yourself with it.
Awesome. Okay, I'll be there.
Awesome.
Hi, I have a question. So I'm Rooney. I'm from the RIT, and I'm the board member of League of RIT, which is the Riot Gaming Co for RIT. And we always host tournament every semester, every month. And but every year, we also hosting the world viewing party. But usually, we do purchase the merch from the Riot. But since last year, we asked about the tax accept, which is to no tax and buy the merch. But I don't know why the last year we wrote the email to Riot Game and the Riot reject us. So I'm not sure if there's another way we can purchase merch. so that we can host events and provide a better community for Riot gamers in RIT. Yeah.
I'm not super familiar with that. You may need to. Have you contacted player support? Because that's kind of the best.
Yes. Last year, like we contact the person. Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's any other way, like.
Not that I'm aware of. Something that might help is that if this is something that you did in the past successfully, you can refer to previous player support tickets. So if you reference that in the new ticket that you open and say, hey, we did this in 2020, here's a link to that ticket, that lets whoever sees your new inquiry look back at the old thing and say, oh, this is who worked on that, and they might be able to figure it out. There are a lot of different people that answer player support tickets at a lot of different places. So making it easier for us to follow our own trail, we'll make sure that whoever is responding to your ticket will get, the most up-to-date information and catch whatever extra context that may have gotten lost.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Tommy, go ahead.
Hello.
Okay. Hey, how's it going?
Good, thank you. So I wanted to just ask a little more clarity on the internship program applicants requirement, because it says currently enrolled in college, university, or non-degree courses. I decided to take a pause because I was in a graduate program. So I'm worried that I wouldn't be eligible, but I would like to get more clarity on the non-degree courses part, and like whether I would have to get that in order to apply to the internship, or I just have to keep looking for other opportunities.
Sam,
Tommy, that's a great question. Sam, I'm like Sam.
Sam, please help.
Lucky. Yeah, we're very lucky to have Sam here.
You're muted.
And
Sam.
She comes from the void. That is a fantastic question. So the clarification around that language. My name is Sam. I am a university recruiter at Riot, for a little bit of context, not just coming out of nowhere. Know JT and Victoria pretty well. But in terms of the enrollment, so the idea is that we recognize that not all disciplines develop folks in a same kind of like 4-year or like university community college pipeline, that there are a lot of roles, things, especially in terms of like creative roles, mostly I'm thinking about like art, illustration, concept art, VFX, those kinds of roles don't have formal schooling. And so that's more of what that targeted language is supposed to encompass. And so we do really look for folks that are still in school, because the internship program is for students. However, for those folks that are kind of on the cusp of an experience or kind of have an in-between place where they are in their enrollment, we would encourage you to check out our early career roles or associate level roles that are available on the Riot website. However, for whatever reason, if you end up enrolling in additional schooling, whether that's a degree program or other kinds of certificate or online programs in the future, that would qualify you to go ahead and then meet the eligibility for the internship program. So mostly it's, again, to kind of capture people that are in non-traditional schooling routes in order to be trained in specific disciplines, mostly talking about creative roles. Does that help answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
No problem.
Anyone else? Just want to make sure.
I have a question. That's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Well, my question is it's in the same vein, but it's just a little different. Not only for esports and things like that, I also produce music, and I do nerd-based music. So I do things that's called nerdcore, which is basically making songs about like anime, video games, things like that. So my first question is, not only I do that, but I also do game scores as well. And I was also looking at the music supervisor positions and things like that. And I was wondering, does this internship actually offer anything on the music side of it, or is it just really like directly on like the actual game aspect of it?
I'll take a stab at that. That's a great question, Mark. So the internships that we offer every summer are very much to the live needs of the business. And so in areas where they have the capacity to train up to offer the resources and support to be able to support an intern. And so the roles can change from year to year slightly. So obviously there are some roles that are consistent every year, that there is always a demand. If you go into the listing right now, there aren't any roles within entertainment and within music, specifically within the internship program, but we're looking to expand the offerings in the coming years. So something to keep your eye out for. But of course, there are always our full-time roles that are available and posted on our website as well. It's an exciting part of the company, to be sure, and it's something that is growing.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much. I just wasn't 100% sure.
No worries.
Question. So it's also for the Sam. So I'm actually an international student from China. So I know there's a Riot Games based in Shanghai, and I'm wondering if there's future plan you guys open internship positions in China, or it's just limited to the US?
That is a great question. So each of the Riot offices have their own autonomy to run their own internship programs. So myself, I have less visibility about the offices that are abroad and what their internship offerings normally look like. They do offer some. They are not across all disciplines, and so they can change. And also their postings, while they do appear on our general kind of Riot careers page and on the university website, it doesn't come up as cyclically as the internship opportunities that are offered in any of the US-based offices. And so they're hoping to improve their comms, both in terms of our offerings that we have in Asia, as well as some that they're hoping to offer and open up in Europe. So it's a little bit more ad hoc. But what I would like to do is, I have your name from this to be able to pass along to our counterpart over in our China-based offices, and maybe get some information about when those offerings may become available, if that's something that's on their horizon.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I just connected you in the link, on the LinkedIn. So
okay,
yeah,
awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All righty, I'm going to close it now. Thank you, everybody, for staying on the extra 24 minutes. Thank you for asking your questions. They were great questions, and we are excited to see you in November. Bye, guys.